So I want to react to this today. This actually was from Colin Cowherd's show, I think 4 days ago, after the Sunday night game between us and the Buffalo Bills. He actually gives a lot of praise to Joe Burrow. So I kind of want to react to this, give my thoughts and opinions. As always, let's go ahead and get right into it. Check, check, check.
Burrow last night. When he came into the league, I said he's a better version of Tony Romo. What he is, watching him last night, he's Joe Montana cool and Tony Romo playmaking mobile. I think he's honestly, you can make an argument, he's surpassed Mahomes in situational quarterbacking.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. 1000% yes. Thank you, Colin. Even though I don't always agree with you because you put, Dwayne Haskins, RIP, on the list of quarterbacks that could never win a Super Bowl, like as of right now, which he obviously is passed away, so he can't. Yes.
Third down, fourth down, he's very Jeter in the clutch. He's very MJ. He's very Brady. He's 82% completion percentage in the red zone since week 3. 8 TDs, no picks. He is better in crisis. And that's what I said. I'm not. Mahomes is a crazier raw talent. Lamar is much more explosive. Josh Allen's more powerful, bigger, stronger. But in a big spot situationally, when trailing with 4 minutes or left, that's the hardest quarterback play in the league. You're trailing late. He has 113 passer rating.
That's because, as I've said many, many times, Joe is the most clutch quarterback in the NFL, right? At the end of the day, in order to get to a Super Bowl, I don't think Lamar Jackson can do it. I don't think he's clutch enough to do it. He is 1-3 in the playoffs, but I don't think he is clutch enough to go and win all these games to get to a Super Bowl. Josh Allen has shown now that he's not clutch enough to do it. The only two quarterbacks in the AFC that are clutch enough to go wild card, divisional, championship, Super Bowl is Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Those are the only quarterbacks in the AFC right now who have shown that they are clutch enough to do so. Now, obviously, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but Joe is more clutch than he is. Now, I know you might say, well, then why did Joe Burrow have a Super Bowl? We're not going to get into that point, because you already know I could make a whole entire video about that. I'm pretty sure I already have. Some questionable things happened in that game, but you know what? That's the past. At the end of the day, though, when it comes to, as Colin says here, third down, fourth down plays that we need the first down. We need the critical plays. That's when Joe shines the most. And I'm not saying Patrick doesn't shine the most in those situations. He does. He's very good in those situations. Joe's just a tad bit better. Now, you might say, well, that's because Patrick's so good that he doesn't put himself in those type of situations. I know I hear that all the time from Chiefs fans. Okay. Joe still doesn't put himself in those situations and still finds a way to win in those situations.
And so when you don't have the right quarterback, all you talk about is play calling and officiating and how many passes your wide receivers drop. Have you ever noticed that with Joe Burrow? Those are never topics.
I disagree with that. Listen, there are still problems with officiating, problems with receivers dropping the ball. I mean, look at T. Higgins versus the Rams. He dropped 6 or 7 catches versus the Rams. Now, it's not a problem as in wow, this is a problem where T can't catch the ball the whole entire year. But you could say the topics of that game is that T dropped 7 passes. You could talk about, we've been talking about how bad the, play calling has been the last couple weeks, right? And how when some offensive drives, our play calling has been absolute dog water. And I go back to the Seahawks game, offensive play call did not seem good. Then the 49ers game, offensive play call seemed amazing. Right? And it kind of was wishy-washy back and forth. We didn't run any under center plays for most of the year because Joe Burrow's calf strain. But even when we could, it seemed like our offense coordinator, Brian Callahan, or Zach Taylor, didn't want to. So there are things, and obviously officiating, yes, we will always complain when the refs do not call the right calls and cost us games. So I don't agree with that. I think even with Joe being as great as Joe is, there is still questionable stuff on other departments you can still question. Just because Joe Burrow is amazing doesn't mean the officials are gonna automatically start giving him all the flags. If anything, they go against him with the flags because of the fact that it seems like the NFL doesn't want Joe Burrow to be as good as Joe Burrow truly is. So I disagree with that.
They're just not topics. You don't talk about that. That's what happens when you have a Mahomes or a Trevor Lawrence.
Reason why you have that with Mahomes, you don't talk about that, is because the refs are very friendly to Patrick Mahomes.
Or a Jalen Hurts. Stop talking about play calling. Is the play calling for Cincinnati great? And here's the other thing. So he shows up in Cincinnati. They and remain have a weak owner. They're cheap on free agency. They have no real GM, no momentum, and an awful offensive line.
How dare you put that disrespect on Duke Tobin like that? They don't really have a GM. Duke Tobin's amazing. Don't you dare do that. And absolutely slaughtering Mike Brown like that. Come on now, Colin.
He solves all of them quickly. Again, if you're making excuses for your quarterback, you don't have the right quarterback. There is no reason Cincinnati is as good as they are. They still have the same owner. It's not considered an elite. They're not a wheeling, dealing front office on draft day. They just make their picks.
I don't like this. I don't like this narrative he's spinning. Because his narrative he's spinning is correct, but to a certain degree. He's spinning the narrative that Joe's the only reason and the sole reason why Cincinnati is good. And while, yes, he is a big part of the reason why we are amazing, let's be honest, we didn't have Joe Burrow out there, we're not going to be successful at all. But there is all parts that go together, right? Our defense being as good as it is. Lou Anarumo being an amazing defense coordinator, right? When Zach Taylor is on with the offensive play calls, he can be really freaking amazing. And also, of course, I don't know if you know anything, but Jamar Chase is really freaking good too, right? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. And while, yes, I will agree that Joe makes them look better with how amazing he is, I don't think it's all Joe. It's majority Joe, and Joe is the leader, and Joe is the the pilot of the ship, of the, craft here. But I think the narrative he's trying to spin is if without Joe, this would be an 0-16 team. And I don't know if I agree with that. I do agree that Joe has changed the culture. Joe has changed everything. Since Joe joined his team in 2020, this team has become a Super Bowl team. This team has become one of the best teams in the league. And again, they built around him, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I want to see how he spins this narrative. I want to see how he spins it.
I mean, they don't have I don't believe they still have an indoor practice facility in Cincinnati in the winter. They've always been frugal. O-line, they've put money, draft capital. I don't know if it's good or not. It's okay. It's passable. But he has solved all their issues. And, coach's kid, ho-hum, Joe Montana cool, Tony Romo movement. He talked after.
Yeah, we're coming along. We played well the last couple weeks. We just got to keep it going. We're going to keep getting better every day in practice. Keep talking through routes, keep talking through what we're trying to accomplish, and go from there.
We do have an indoor practice facility, by the way. I don't know what Colin Cowherd is talking about there. That's why we were so angry about Joe's injury that, this, last July, was because it seemed like the reason why his injury was because of heat. And it's like, why are you practicing outside in the crazy weather when you could practice indoors?
It's only game 8. We still got 9 games left. So we're 5-3 right now. We're in a great spot. We just got to continue to get better.
So everybody was freaking out in September and first week of October. Everybody was freaking out because Cincinnati, once again, was not good. And that's because, Joe, for whatever reason, is always healing in September. He's had multiple surgeries. This year it's a calf strain. But here's the way to think about Joe Burrow. Just about the time your favorite coffee place is selling a pumpkin latte, he gets great. Just about the time the leaves change and you go to Starbucks or Pete's or wherever your local coffee place is, and they've got the latte, the pumpkin spice latte, that's when he takes over. October, November, December, he's money. By the way, I'm told they just opened their indoor practice facility last year. My bad. I've got to get a complete list of indoor practice facilities, but that was like a running joke in the league. How can you be a cold weather franchise? The local high school had it. One of the high schools had it. It took Joe Burrow getting to a Super Bowl Finally, they'd had Carson Palmer, Boomer Esiason. They'd had good quarterback play. They had Ken Anderson when I was growing up. Finally, the owner's like, yeah, I may want to protect that guy. I mean, he has solved all their problems. I think you can make the argument. I know it's taboo, but situationally, he's every bit as good as Mahomes, maybe better. Red zone, trailing. I'm not saying he's the raw talent of him, but it's really unbelievable to watch him play. And we talked about Buffalo earlier. Once they marched down the field and got that first touchdown, I don't know about you. I'm watching that game. I'm thinking it's Cincinnati's night. Dallas, Philadelphia, there were many times I thought Dallas deserved to win. They got a couple of calls that went against them. Dallas had some momentum. Dallas was getting to Jalen Hurts. There were multiple times I thought Dallas is going to pull this off. They deserve it today. Of course, they were Dallas. They had penalties and sacks. But in this game, I really never felt like Cincinnati was threatened. And I think that kind of goes to, if you have the right quarterback, you're not sitting on message boards talking about play calling and officiating. The quarterback just solves all that stuff. So, and I think Justin Herbert against the Jets tonight has some of those qualities too. He's on his.
And again, like I said, I do agree that the quarterback elevates the play. A good quarterback can elevate a play and make a kind of average offense or a struggling offense really, look a lot better / almost amazing. But what I will disagree with, and I will still disagree with Colin Cowherd here, is that I don't think that, with all offensive struggles, a lot of it, yes, did come from Joe Burrow's calf strain, right? And the first, 4 weeks of the season, really 4 weeks of the season, his calf strain was absolutely awful. And we saw it in the Titans game, the Rams game, the Ravens, and the Browns game. Then, we saw him really start to come back to life versus the Cardinals game, and then even into Seattle's game. But even in Seattle's game, the second half, we scored, 3 points in the second half? We couldn't do anything in the second half. And even that's with having Joe Burrow out there at the time, almost 100%. But it really was the play calling, I feel like, that held us back in that second half and struggled us and kind of kept us down. So I don't 1,000% agree with him, because there are questionable play calls, like, for example, last game, Bills game, going for it on 4th and 5 instead of kicking the field goal, right? Is Joe Burrow going to change any of that? No. Is Joe Burrow going to elevate above that? No. At the end of the game, though, Joe did go down the field, and he ended the game in that way. But I don't know if I 1,000% agree. I agree that, yes, I think Joe is the best quarterback in the NFL. I think Joe is more clutch than Patrick Mahomes in almost every way possible. And I think Joe is, going to win multiple Super Bowls because of this clutch factor. And I do agree that, him and Patrick are really the only quarterbacks in the NFL that, are clutch enough, or I say in the AFC, who are clutch enough to go win a Super Bowl. I don't know. It just, somebody's, narrative he's trying to spin is that because of Joe Burrow, right, this team doesn't have to worry about officiating. Doesn't have to worry about, play calling. Doesn't have to worry about, making excuses for anything. And I don't agree with that. I think Joe is an amazing quarterback, but I think Joe is one player, and this is a team game, right? And he's not always 100%. He's not always perfect. No one is, right? There are plays where Joe is going to struggle, and Joe's not going to be able to, hit the mark on certain plays, and that's where our defense picks up. I mean, you look at our last couple of weeks, even when Joe has been healthy. Look at the Seahawks game. Why did we win that game? Our defense. Our defense had Cam Taylor break out the interception that got the field goal. Our defense held him 3 and out at the 5-yard line twice. Our defense had an interception when they were at our 5-yard line. That is 4 different drives. Our defense led everything, right? Then you look at the 49ers game. Our defense really came in clutch there too. Our offense definitely went up and down the field. I will say that's more of a Joe game, if anything. Obviously, Irv Smith fumbled the ball. But then you look at the Bills game. We started off 21 points. We scored 3 points in the second half. 3 points. Is that play calling? Is that Joe? I think it's a little bit of everything, right? It's a little bit of everything. But our defense really came through in that fourth quarter and showed us how amazing they are. So while, yes, Joe is amazing, greatest quarterback of all time, I will always say that. you gotta look at more than just that, right? Our defense deserves the credit too, to put them up there too. What we have, and I think what he should have listed, is we have the total package. We have the offense, we have defense, we have special teams. Play calling sometimes wishy-washy, officiating hates us, but we have everything else figured out. So that's kind of how I'm thinking. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm delusional. Tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys next one. Peace.